This is crazy. This is insanity.
Congressman Peter King says the media has disgraced itself with its extensive coverage of Michael Jackson's death. And the New York Republican says he felt it was his public duty to post this message on YouTube.
And let's knock out the psychobabble. This guy was a pervert. He was a child molester. He was a pedophile. And to be giving this much coverage to him day in and day out, what does it say about us as our country?
Jackson was acquitted in 2005 of child molestation charges, but reportedly paid $20 million to settle another case. We asked King about that, and he stood by his comments.
Whether or not he was convicted of a precise crime by his own admission, also by cases he settled, lawsuits that he settled against him, there's an admission that he acted very, very inappropriately with young kids.
King says he felt compelled to speak out after attending 4th of July parades and questioned why more attention isn't given to members of the armed forces and public servants such as teachers and police officers. But Brian Monroe, the former editorial director of Ebony and Jet magazines and CNN contributor, says King went too far by bringing up charges Jackson was acquitted of.
Once you are proven innocent and not guilty, that's it. That's the case closed. And so for him to put those charges out there, whether or not he likes the performer or not, whether or not he even has a sense that the coverage has been off over the top, I think he crossed the line.
Hi, this is Congressman Pete King, and yesterday I marched in 2 4th of July parades in Wantor and Massapequa Park. Today I was just taking a walk through Wantor, here at the American Legion Hall, firehouse down the street, a fire memorial a few blocks from here. And it really reminded me of the great men and women who have sacrificed so much for our country. People fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan today, cops, firefighters, teachers, none of whom really get much credit. And yet for the last, I don't know how long now, this lowlife, Michael Jackson, his name, his face, his picture, is all over the newspapers, television, radio. So all we hear about is Michael Jackson. And let's knock out the psychobabble. This guy was a pervert, he was a child molester, he was a pedophile. And to be giving this much coverage to him day in and day out, what does it say about us as our country? I just think it's we're too politically correct. No one wants to stand up and say, we don't need Michael Jackson. He died, he had some talent, fine. But people dying every day. There's men and women dying today in Afghanistan. Let's give them the credit they deserve. So I really think the media has disgraced itself. I think that too many people in public life have made fools of themselves by talking about Michael Jackson as if he's some kind of hero. There's nothing good about this guy. He may have been a good singer, did some dancing, but the bottom line is, would you let your child or grandchild be in the same room with Michael Jackson? What are we glorifying for? So anyway, let's take some time out to really look to the people that do make us a great country. The men and women of the armed forces, police, firefighters, teachers who work in really rough neighborhoods, people who volunteer with dying cancer patients, people who work in AIDS clinics. They're the ones we should be glorifying, not some pervert like Michael Jackson. So all we hear about is Michael Jackson. And let's knock out the psychobabble. This guy was a pervert, he was a child molester, he was a pedophile.
Wow, Congressman Peter King's comments have sparked a fired-up debate, as you might well imagine. But is it wrong to criticize Jackson and his troubled past so soon after his death? Joining me tonight in Hollywood, Carlos Diaz, who's a correspondent for Extra. Tonight in New York is Midwin Charles, who's an attorney for the law firm Midwin Charles and Associates. So you just heard a part of that outrageous, controversial YouTube video made by New York Republican Congressman Peter King. He is demanding that people stop glorifying Michael Jackson. Here's more of his rant. Watch this.
This guy was a pervert, he was a child molester, he was a pedophile, and to be giving this much coverage to him day in and day out, what does it say about us as our country? I just think it's we're too politically correct. No one wants to stand up and say, we don't need Michael Jackson.
Carlos Diaz, this guy was way out of line, wasn't he?
I don't think he should be talking about political correctness at all. It should be politically being incorrect, because I mean, if you believe in the judicial system, as most elected officials should, you would know that Michael Jackson was acquitted. He was not found guilty of child molestation charges. So what are you basing your facts on, that Michael Jackson's a child molester? And I can't believe that he would come out and say this on the days before his memorial. It's bad timing, and it's just badly put.
Yeah, and just because you pay a settlement to somebody doesn't doesn't mean it's an admission of guilt. He did pay a settlement in another case, and that was pretty much to make it go away. So, you know,
yeah. I mean, I'm perplexed.
I'm pretty horrified by what he said. And today the congressman was defending his comments to CNN. He tells us he stands by his decision to speak out. He says a lot of people will feel exactly the same way he does. Watch this.
It's hard to get a lower deviancy than Michael Jackson's, and yet we were building him up to this glorified level. I just felt it was time for somebody to say, hey, this has gone too far. This is enough. I think the media has gone too far. I think people in politics have gone too far. And if I'm, one voice, I just felt, being in public life, I do have the forum.
Yeah, and I think he's digging himself a deeper hole. Midwin Charles, to you. Again, this is a United States congressman. Was he not out of line?
It's not so much that he was out of line. I just think that in this day and age, as a congressperson, he ought to be tending to the business of being a congressperson and not debasing someone who just passed away.
I'm right there with you. Well, the great debate continues now over whether it is wrong, before Michael's even buried, to talk about his controversial past at all. We have these brand new comments from the Reverend Al Sharpton, who's on the exact opposite side of New York Congressman King. He says the media isn't honoring Jackson enough. Take a look at this.
I have seen other musical icons die where there were serious questions about them, and I've never seen it dominate the news before their funeral and dominate it to the point that people forgot their greatness. And even now, a lot of those answers never came about allegations in their life, and we still exalt their artistry. All we're asking for is fairness.
Yeah, see, I appreciate what he's saying. I don't think we're losing the point of Michael's greatness. Carlos, what do you think? Does Al have a point there? Is it wrong at this time for anyone in the media to cover the whole Michael Jackson story, which, as we all know, has the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's what we do. We're supposed to cover all angles of it. I honestly think that people are being kind to Michael. One thing that I can say is that when most musicians die, no matter how popular they are, it's not 2 weeks before we have a memorial service. This has been a long time in the making, because Michael's such a big star, having to plan this thing. So usually when someone dies, it's the next week that they're put in the ground or they have a memorial. So that's why people don't talk about it before the memorial. I think, though, people are being very fair with Michael Jackson.
What do you think, Midwin? Congressman King is demanding that we stop glorifying Michael Jackson, and the Reverend Al is saying we're not doing enough to honor his legacy. What about you?
I think we're doing more than enough to honor his legacy. Look, Michael Jackson was a star like none other. He was an icon. He changed the rules and was a pioneer when it came to music and dance and fashion and the like. We are honoring him. We are talking about him, and it's what we ought to do.
Well, Sean Puffy P. Diddy Combs is also weighing in on this great debate. In fact, we caught up with the Puffster over the holiday weekend. He was throwing his annual Hamptons bash, and he says he totally understands why the Reverend Al is not happy with the media coverage. Take a look.
I just wanted to just say my piece just for the media to just look at the other side of them too. I'm not like sitting at home like, I understand the media game, you know what I'm saying? Michael uses it to his advantage, I've used it to my advantage. It's a double-edged sword, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it needs to be fair. At the same time, when somebody dies, we need to at least give him a day of respect, just a day. So, and I think that I want to applaud CNN. I saw a turn winner, I saw Don Lemon, I saw them at least, listen to the people and at least give that man his due respect. But, there's other things that people are going to have to hear about, and that's just the way life is.
Yeah, now, Carlos, I think he has a great point here. If you're in the spotlight and you do use the media to your advantage, as he pointed out that Michael Jackson always did, it might not all be positive attention, and the people surrounding, in this case, Michael Jackson, have to be prepared for that.
The term freak was used a lot of times when Michael Jackson was alive to describe him, and it's being used in death as well. A quick little story. I was at a 4th of July celebration over the weekend. One of my aunts came up to me, 70 years old, and she's like, tell me what's really going on with Michael Jackson. Was he really a freak? That's the thing. It's like, that's what people are talking about. So as media members, we're just reflecting what people are talking about in society.